I often see scenes in movies where a man argues with his wife, and I am amazed at how long the exchanges are and how quickly the husband retorts. I have never been that skilled in arguments, whether they are formal class debates or asserting myself at work. So when I got married, you can only imagine my struggles in arguing with my wife. Arguments were more often
Don't
like
know
this.
if it's ever gonna stop.
Blah, blah, blah.
Arguing with my wife reminds me of my struggles and challenges in school back in the day. I may have had some complaints about school, but I can't blame it for the struggles I had in trying to pass the tests. It's the same with my wife. I can't blame her for the struggles I have in trying to win the argument with her. I just felt like I was in a situation where there was a discrepancy between the standards and expectations versus my current knowledge and skill level. Some arguments with my wife are a lot like struggling in answering the questions in your exams, but even harder because you are taking all the subjects simultaneously: math, history, literature, and philosophy, to name a few. There were times when I thought that logic or philosophy seemed to be working. Then suddenly my wife would bring up history and I would find myself not being able to answer back. Sometimes arguing with my wife felt like defending a thesis where you are attacked from all angles by a panel of judges with different lines of expertise. So I usually prepared my answers to all potential questions in advance if I thought an argument was imminent. But no matter how prepared I thought I was, arguments didn't flow the way I thought they would. Remember the times when your teacher gave a surprise quiz? It was the same with some of the arguments with my wife. There were times I didn't see them coming. I'm not sure if anybody experienced this in class, but there were times when I wondered why everyone got suddenly silent and busy, only to find out later that an individual activity had started moments earlier. The same goes with my wife. I couldn't even sense that an argument had already started. I often thought we were just having a casual conversation. As an engineering student, I used to think that math and science were the only subjects that counted, but when I started looking for a job, I wished I could have put a little more focus on learning English.
What qualities and attributes do you possess that would make you the perfect candidate for the position?
Even when I started working, my strong background in math and science has not really taken me that far. In the same way, I thought I would win arguments using facts and logic, but they don't seem to work against my wife's excellent use of poetry. There were arguments wherein the feeling is much like what you feel when the teacher gives the class an oral exam. The teacher calls your name and asks a question you don't know the right answer to. The thing is that you still manage to say a few things that don't even make sense to you because you suddenly switch to a sort of autopilot or survival mode.
That is exactly the right answer. To another question.
This was usually the case when I had an argument with my wife that I already knew I would lose even before it started. But there's no other way around it, so I still engage in it, hoping I can survive the last round. Remember the tricky question in exams where one of the choices appears to be the correct answer, but turns out to be wrong? Or where two of the choices are correct, but you picked only one? Or where none of the choices are right? Sometimes it's the same with the questions that my wife throws at me.
What attracted you to me when we first met? My looks or my personality? You think I'm ugly. You think I'm a bad person.
In school, there were many things we were taught as kids that are no longer true. We were taught that there were 9 planets in our solar system. Then later it was down to 8 with the downgrade of Pluto to a dwarf planet. It is the same with my wife. The right answer before may not be the right answer today.
Do you like flowers?
No, I'm not like most girls.
I thought you don't like flowers.
What? All women do.
At the start of the school year, I had high expectations of myself in terms of academic performance. But as months went by, I learned to be more realistic and began to lower my standards. It was the same as arguing with my wife. I stopped trying to win arguments. I would be happy if they ended early.
Okay, let's do it your way.
Wait! Did you even analyze?
Back in college, there was a professor who was known to fail the majority of the class in a certain subject. It's like she almost wanted everyone to take the subject at least twice. So for most of us who were taking the subject for the first time, our fate was sealed. On some occasions, it was the same with my wife. It was like the decision had already been made even before the argument started. But here's probably the one difference between school and arguing with my wife. If I struggled in a certain class, but I still managed to pass, I was overwhelmed with joy. With my wife, when things went my way in an argument, I wouldn't really feel happy because I would start to hear voices in my head.
It's not over yet.
I may have succeeded in making my wife seem like the villain and even gained your sympathy. If I had published this video 10 years ago, that might have been exactly what I wanted. But along the way, God opened my eyes, and I came to realize that I may actually be the greater villain, trying to portray myself as the victim. I later understood that, more than my slow data processor and how men's brains are wired differently from women's, pride and selfishness were causing far more harm. Even my seemingly harmless passivity was selfishness disguised as considerateness. We are often right in our own eyes. We see arguments as battles to be won, or in my case, something to be avoided altogether in order to preserve peace and convenience. But that kind of avoidance is unhealthy because it masks deeper issues and selfish because it robs both you and your wife of opportunities for growth. Arguments, or the lack of them, often reveal what is truly in our hearts and expose our sinful tendencies. But we cannot overcome our sinful nature through sheer willpower. Only God can truly transform the heart. So here is my unsolicited advice. Draw near to God and allow Him to be at the center of your marriage. Pray together daily and let Scripture be the final authority on what is right and wrong, even in your arguments.